I was hoping to go after John Maxwell. Yeah, so I don't know, I'm not sure. I keep asking myself why I'm sitting on this table. And I think Alex sent me a Facebook message months ago asking me if I would like to sit on a panel. I did not even ask what or why, I just said yes because I like Alex. I'm questioning myself. I don't think I'm an expert at this. And I've been working on a presentation for the last 2 weeks. Still didn't come up with a presentation. I asked a few people I work with, what should I say? And also just say the truth. And I said, what is the truth? So this is, just get it straight, I'm not an expert. But this morning as I'm sitting in this room, and thanks Gary for a good presentation, because it actually gave context to the history of HIV in Canada and Ontario. But also it's really appreciating the people who were there years ago, who made the history, who resisted and who fought to get us to where we are. To name a few, Tim, Yvette, Gary, and everyone else in the room, and those who are not here with us. But then, I think the face of HIV has changed over the years in Toronto and in Canada as a whole. We now have a higher number of immigrants, refugees, ethno-racial communities infected and affected by HIV. But then when I look at this room, this community is underrepresented. There might be reasons why they're not sitting in this room. Yet we're in Toronto, so I'm not going to jump to a conclusion. And the needs of these communities are as diverse. The community is affected by all the challenges that were addressed by Gary, Yvette, whether it's imprisonment, whether it's substance use, everything else. But on top of that, there are a lot of other challenges these communities go through. Legislation, immigration policies, and John can take the whole day talking about that. Criminalization. This population is overrepresented in those issues. There's trauma, immigration trauma. There's stigma. There's discrimination. There's racism. There's access to treatment, access to medication. Determinants of health, poverty, unemployment, and just to name a few. So these are just challenges that the population I work with and we work with go through, on top of all the other challenges everybody else goes through. But then, I'm not sure if the government policies, if funding really addresses some of these issues, or if we have moved on by identifying and recognizing that the face of HIV has moved. Because looking at the changes in funding, our government, we need to change with, get on with the program. There's these changes. Have we moved on to addressing some of the issues coming up? The needs of these communities, as I've said, are more. And for agencies serving these communities, and remember I said this is Toronto, we have maybe 4 ethno-racial, 5 ethno-racial agencies in Toronto. Sitting in this room, I could see Fanta from African Partnership Against AIDS, and I see Vijaya from Asian Community, Alliance for South Asian AIDS Prevention, just to name a few. They are understaffed, underfunded, program funding. And these agencies serve beyond just counseling. You have to escort clients to doctors, you have to escort clients to immigration hearings, you have to escort clients to face deportation hearings, home visits with one support worker. That's the situation we are in right now. So I think as we move into further discussions today, that's a discussion we need to put on our plate. When you're serving and you're hiring staff, when you have project funding that does not cater to extended benefits, you need a social worker with a social work degree, and you want to fund them 40,000 salary per year. No health benefits. How long is that person going to stay in the agency? It's a question for us. It's a stepping stone. I come in, get some experience for 2 months and get a job somewhere like CIS, where I'll get paid more and get benefits. We are all human. So these are situations. So we have agencies who are underfunded, understaffed, and the staff change over every other time, yet they work with very marginalized population. Let's talk about funding. And I think John will talk about city funding. It's called Toronto Urban Health. I don't even want to go there, it's frustrating. So we are talking about agencies that have to compete for funding. The changes in funding creates a situation where we are competing. So we are in Olympics of oppression. Prove that your clients need this funding more than my clients do. Prove that your agency needs this funding more than we do. We are talking about small agencies that cannot hire expert proposal writers. And yet funding is based on how expert your proposal is. It doesn't matter your experience, your history in doing this work, that doesn't matter. So there are agencies that have fundraising departments, fundraising coordinators. When they are fighting for funding with an agency that has 3 staff, and you know, you have to work and do the fundraising and do the reports, and there's so many reports that you have to do. So it's up to you to decide, are you going to see the clients, are you going to serve the people you're supposed to serve, or do the 20 reports you have to write for every funder? It's up to you as a staff or an ED to decide which one is more important. So we are in this place where we are in Operation Olympics, where we, as one of my community members say, Hunger Games. You have to go sit in a room, be given 5 minutes to prove why you deserve the funding. We are in a place where, I'm looking at Toronto Urban Health last year, all the PHA engagement funding were cut out. So right now in Toronto, we do not, let's go back to activism. We've heard about the history, but we're in a place where we cannot even engage the communities we serve because we do not have funding for that. Because our politicians or policymakers have decided that it's not important to fund peer engagement programs. When a program that has been running for more than 10 years, like Speakers Bureau has been here for years, cannot get funding, then it's time we ask those hard questions. Oh, evidence-based program, evidence-based research. You have to provide evidence. We have to provide evidence. How many of the aid service organizations have funding for research? How many of them can be given funding for research when we apply? We need to look for academicians. Every time you apply for funding, you have to look for people in universities, researchers, to bring them so that you're really eligible to get the funding. So is that about, and I think Gary talked about it, about the consultants and the professionals that we have to bring into the room in order to be found to be really prove ourselves. So we have to provide evidence, but we do not have enough funding and resources to really sit down and come up with that evidence. We have evidence. We see evidence in our rooms every day. We see the evidence in our agencies every day. We have the evidence in the clients we see, but then we have to provide evidence. How many? I don't know how many of the people in this room who work in aid service organization have funding to do research. And you know, one of the most disappointing things is that yesterday I was talking to someone saying, oh, I'm coming to OHTN conference, and I found out that, oh, it's only basic science. So I'm still asking myself, and I still need to go look at that agenda. So when it's basic science, what does that mean? When a research conference that has taken place over the years that has included social research, that has included now just is specifically basic research, where are we going? Questions for you to answer at the end of the day. Professionalization of HIV on boards. Oh, my pet peeve. Skills matrix. I hate that word. I hate it. And I've heard it so many places. So what is a skills matrix? We talk MIPA, JIPA. On paper, we have it everywhere. When you put OCHA to say, how are you? What do you mean? JIPA. What is your stand on JIPA, MIPA? Do we really practice it? When we recruit for boards, going back to Gary's presentation, we are using a skills matrix. We are looking for skills. Who has accountancy, proposal writing skills? We are looking for people who have anti-oppression training. Are we really investing? When we talk about JIPA and MIPA, we need to invest in our communities. There needs to be investment. That means investing in empowering the population you serve, investing in bringing them to that point where they get those skills. But we're in this place where we want the shortcut. Let's get people who already have the skills. This other is my own thing. Those are stigma index thing that people are told to apply for as steering committee members, and I told all my peers to apply. And I find out recruitment was based on, it's called what, skills metrics. And then I found out that most of the people who applied were doctors, scientists, so my conclusion is none of my peers are going to get in because they're not doctors and they do not have the skills that are required to get there. So are we still using the activism that has been there to fulfill the needs of our community? Collaborations and partnerships, very wonderful ones. I could collaborate with John Maxwell tomorrow and do a program. It's like marriage, yeah? Marriage is nice, but marriage needs to be equitable. When you're married and your spouse is abusing you and emotionally abusing you and not giving you enough food and not giving you money, we call it abuse. Happens in partnerships and collaborations. Are all the partnership and collaborations we're getting into equitable? When I am a small agency and I'm collaborating with a big agency with a lot of money and a lot of power, and nobody wants to change the status quo, how equitable are you as a small agency in making decisions in that partnership? How loud is your voice heard in that partnership? And sometimes the more powerful partner decides, I no longer want to do this partnership, or decides, I'm leaving, or spends a year going through and approving whatever documents you send to them. How valuable is that? How important is that? And usually, you know, if you're told to partner, if you're told to get married, you look for a richer man, someone with more income than you do, or a woman, or whatever. You're always looking for better. So if I'm asked to partner, I'll look for a more powerful partner. It makes sense, yeah. You know, they do benefits, costs, others, that thing, benefits, cost analysis. So what are the benefits of the partnership? What are the costs of the partnership? We all want powerful, rich partners. But then that doesn't mean it's going to be an equitable partner. And actually the funders also want powerful, rich partners for you. So these are questions to ask, and these are the answers we need to put in the room. There is a lot of them. I could spend the whole day talking about this. I could spend the whole year talking about this. But today is one of those days I'm being nice. I'm trying. I keep telling everybody I'm trying to say nice things. I hope I've been saying this in a nice way. We talk about funding cuts, and we have to, you know, we are always worried. It's always that before we apply proposals, we are worried about funding cuts. And there's been time where there's so an example I would give, I'm a person living with HIV. Most of my friends are people living with HIV. Most of them work in the ASOs, and I see them every day. And I talk to them every day. I understand the challenges they're going through. And sometimes you go home wondering, what are we doing here? For some of us, we do this job because we have a passion. I do this job because I'm invested in my community. I fight, I sit here because I'm invested in this community. I'm thinking, in 10 years I might not be working. I will need to access services. I want to live a place where if I come to access services, I get the best services ever. I live with HIV, I don't know what's tomorrow. I don't know what's next week. But I need to invest in my next week and my tomorrow. Right now, I have the power to, you know, I'm working, I have a good job, I can scream, I have the power to call John Maxwell. But 5 years from now, I might not. But I really want to live a better place. So when I am not working, when I'm not in this position, I know I'm going to get the best service ever. So for us here today, I think by the end of the day, your job is to make sure that the services available for people living with HIV, for me, is going to be the best service ever. In 10 years when I retire. Thank you.